All right, now we are recording. This is the Ganzfeld Files podcast, episode 15. My guest today is Ian.
Hello.
What's up? How you doing?
Doing okay. Just got off work. I'm still decompressing.
Yeah. Let's get a little closer to the
right here?
microphone. Yeah. You can actually bring it to yourself a little bit closer to
All right, cool. How's this?
There we go. Yeah, well, that's better.
Cool.
Yeah. You got to get that NPR magic.
Right in there. Yeah. Get the silkiness of my voice out.
The silky notes. Yeah. So to introduce Ian to the show, Ian, you were a Chaos Magick Practitioner. Is that how you identify it? Yeah. Okay.
I mean, my mindset is Chaos Magick. I'm a Ceremonial Magick Practitioner.
Gotcha.
Which you kind of have to explain the difference between Chaos Magick and other forms of magic for that to make sense. But basically, Chaos Magick comes from this idea that you can create your own access points to whatever you want to call it. But there's no real structure to Chaos Magick. You have to create your own structure. And so Ceremonial Magick, which, I mean, the way that we view it dates back to like the late 1800s, but goes back further, which we can get into later. That provides the actual structure for practicing magic. So you do run into a lot of chaos magicians they will practice ceremonial magic. They'll practice like Wicca. They'll practice different forms of witchcraft, but it's all, the mindset still comes from chaos magic, which is it can get to be like a pretty involved answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So when you do do you do rituals? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you do the ritual, do you have like do you do a protection type thing before you start the ritual, or?
So the system that I use comes from the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. So there are daily regiments of things that you do. So like the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, which was also been used in Wicca now. It was updated kind of and used in Wicca traditions. People that subscribe to Thelemic faith do what's called the Star Ruby, which is a version of the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. That's like a daily routine. So basically what you're doing with that is clearing out energies that are in your life that you're picking up from other people, or you are creating from within yourself, or picking up from places you've been. But that's a daily thing. And then if you're doing rituals for, like, I guess if you're asking about like for practical purposes, you definitely start off with banishing. But then there are a series of banishing rituals that you can go through before you do any sort of work that like is actually meant to influence your own reality.
Wow. Okay. So and you use it to influence your reality. That's what you do.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, are you familiar with like Robert Anton Wilson?
Heard the name. But,
Okay.
Yeah.
He's a writer. He wrote a book called Prometheus Rising, which I highly suggest you check out.
Okay.
He comes more from, like, he was a ceremonial magician. He wrote a lot about Crowley in his early days. But he also he came to magic from like a clinical psychology sense, you know? So he's really good to read because the language is still kind of scientific and easy for us to follow. He wrote these books in the 70s and 80s, but like it's easy for us to follow now in 2023.
Yeah.
And so he writes about this idea that you can recontextualize your life experiences. So we have like this table that's in front of us is a flat table that's essentially your life, right? And then the events that happen along your life raise the terrain in certain areas. That's like a topography. And then what you, like your objective self, views your life and sees this topography. And then like an archaeologist has to create a situation that they think makes the most sense based on the information that they have. And so that's really what you're doing with magic, is you're taking the events of your life, which are the nodes of influence of the way that you think and the things that you believe that you can achieve based on what you have and have not done and experience that you have, and reframe that in a way that then allows you to influence your future, if that makes sense.
I think so. I think I'm tracking here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like you're kind of stepping out a little bit and then looking at everything as a whole, and
kind of, yeah. And I mean, with ceremonial magic, I can't really speak to the way that other traditions frame it. And I mean, that's part of the idea of chaos magic is that all of these traditions are valid because what you're doing is getting to, like, I mean, if you're like a Freemason, they call it the light. You know, you're getting to this state of gnosis, or just changing your consciousness. You just have to develop a set of techniques to get there, and which is a lot of just internal work. So, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's you are. You're creating the story of your life in real time, I guess. And like when you start to do things of like very heavily influencing the way that you feel about your own past, you can then start to like set out these new plot points, these new nodes of experience that are out in the future. And that's where there starts to be this disconnect from like, so with ceremonial magic in particular, there are two distinct sides to it. There are people that come through it from the lens of Carl Jung, who also practiced ceremonial magic, who was very, there's people contest how he actually felt, but the way that he wrote about it was that we are literally just playing mind games on ourselves to feel better about our life, essentially, right? But he also believed in the power of that, you know, and understood that psychology is just telling you like, oh, I feel this way about this thing. This girl broke up with me. Can I feel bad about it or then like hate myself, or can I like find a point of power from this? You know what I mean?
Right.
How can I better myself from this situation? And then there are people that believe that the practice of ceremonial magic is an objective phenomenon where you are directly dealing with spirits, angels, demons, whatever. And then people have to sort of reconcile the two. I know from my experience, I came to it from the point of view of like Carl Jung, kind of like I had mental health issues. I had been run through the gamut of mental health services. I'd been on different medications. I'd been hospitalized. I mean, everything, and like nothing worked, you know, and I was very well aware of that. And then I started to have experiences that I couldn't explain, which led me to ceremonial magic that I was 100% coming from the point of view of a materialist atheist playing mind tricks on myself. And then the deeper that I got into it, the more my life began to change. And also I started to have experiences that I could not explain at all. And I don't mean like seeing a ghost in the room or seeing an angel, although I have had experiences with things like that. What I mean is like the point of magic is to like the real point of magic is to create an objective experience, right? And I started to have experiences where I would do ritual work for a specific outcome, and you have to sort of internally create a vision of how you want this to work, right? And how you want, like, you have to think of a specific time in your life that's in the future where what you want has already passed, right? So you don't actually think about like, oh, I want $1 million, right? What you think about is like, reading the newspaper that says that you got the ticket that got you $1 million, right? You know what I mean? Or something like that. And I started to have experiences that were, I would internalize something and you write it down and you know what I mean? Like you have to practice it. And then like when that situation happens, there were times that the people that I had imagined, that sometimes were people that I had not even met yet, were players in this, what I was seeing. And the situations worked out that were so close to what I had written down that it changed the way that I see everything, the way that we manifest things. And I don't even mean just in a metaphysical sense. I mean, like picking up this and plugging it into your computer is manifesting your podcast, right? You just have the right tools to do that. And what ceremonial magic does is teaches you that like, this is an act of magic, right? And learning how to use that as a metaphor across all of these other things allows you to find yourself in the situations that you want to be in your life.
Right. So you would say that intention has a lot to do with.
Oh, magic. Intention has almost everything to do with it. Yeah.
Okay. So this is why audience, this is why Ian's such a good guest, because he's like, this is my experience, and this is how I do things. It may not be how you do things. Instead of coming in here and telling us that we're all just purple unicorns flying around in a bowl of jelly or something.
Yeah, and you're all wrong, and this is how you get to where I am. Yeah,
this is the absolute truth. You do not debate me. Yeah. So do you have any tools that you use when you do these the ceremony?
Yes, not as much as like some other folks do, you know. I learned how to do ceremonial magic in like a very bare bones style. There are other people that when they come to it, like you can definitely tell when you meet somebody that was like really into Harry Potter that then like found like, oh, this is based on something that somebody actually did, because those people are typically really into like the regalia and like wands and the robes and everything, which honestly there's nothing wrong with. Like I'm not saying that to denigrate that, because when you're doing ritual work, what you're trying to do is, like I said, achieve a different state of consciousness, which is a lot harder work than anybody wants to admit. And for somebody to like, okay, I want to do a ritual for wealth or love or whatever, I come home, I vacuum my house, I clear out my furniture, give myself room, I bring out my candles, I light my candles, and then I have to put on a robe. And then it's what that does is allows you to get into a different mindset. It's sending all these signals to every different part of your body that we are not doing the normal thing that we do every day. We're not just sitting in front of the television. We're like activating a different part of our brain. And so those tools are there to help you get to that mindset, not there to actually help you get the ritual work done, because all of that is internal.
Okay. Although, I guess for some it would be the ritual of like setting all that stuff up as
well. I mean, that's all part of the ritual. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know that like I can do my like LBRP at night before I go to bed, and it's just it's like brushing your teeth. You just do it, you know. But like if I take the time, which I don't always do, but if I take the time to like clear my room and like set out an altar and like put the candles out, the right colors, the correspondence, and then you have to have like your 4 elements represented and everything, and you actually set up an altar. It is a completely different experience. Like, and I don't think that it's just that the tools are there. It's that I went through the work of setting all that up for 20 minutes, and now I have a representation of like the altar with the candles. I mean, you have to set it up where there's like yellow, red, blue, green, and like the cardinal directions, and then you have to have a representation for which are air, fire, water, and earth, and then you find representations of those things, which is not like air, fire, the fire, you know, like these are metaphors that you're working with. But what you're doing when you're setting up an altar is you are acknowledging that these 4 things exist within you. They are the separate parts of yourself, and then you're representing them physically in your material world, which gives you a different way to interact with it. I mean, that's Hermeticism, which is the basis for anything the Golden Dawn did. That's the basis for a lot of Wicca. That's the basis for a lot of Christianity. Hermeticism has this axiom, as above, so below, right? I'm sure you've heard that before. The Satanic Temple uses that now. But as above, so below means as above, your material world is a reflection of the below, your internal world. And once you start to explore that metaphor, that's not just above external world, below internal world. That is above your higher self, below your your lower self, that is above other people, low, you know what I mean? Like that metaphor exists in all things all the time.
So from what I like, this is how I understand it, as above, so below, and correct me if I'm wrong. So the things that we do here reflect into like a higher reality. So if you go into that higher reality and then change something, it'll change something on this reality. Is that how it works? Or
I mean, that's not the worst way to look at it. One thing that I would say is that it's not about like what we're experiencing right now are our lower selves. We have a higher self. So the goal is not to attain higher knowledge to then move things around to then make like things here happen, but that's possible. And I mean, that's sorcery, they call it. I mean, that is like the basis of like traditional witchcraft, right? Gotcha. And basically what you're doing is you are creating metaphors in a higher plane of existence that then have to trickle down here, and that metaphor is then represented in some sort of physical interaction here on this world. That's what we're experiencing. But the real goal should be like, I mean, if you talk about like Hermetic philosophy, they have a really succinct way of putting it, which is the goal is to get in touch with your higher self and then use your lower self, which is us as like our flesh prisons or whatever, to reach the goals of the higher self, which sometimes is a material goal. You know, like you want to be an artist. That's not about being a famous artist. It's just about creating art that allows you to explore yourself, which is the whole point of being alive. But yeah, you're trying to align those things so that your lower self can attain those goals.
Okay. So I'll ask you this because I thought it was a really funny ass question.
Okay.
So some people, they're under the belief that human beings were creatures in another reality, like spiritual creatures, and then we were sent here to this plane to be imprisoned in this reality. Now, my question is, you think we're guilty? You think
I mean,
we did it?
That really is like, I mean, what is the fall? You know?
Because I think we did. I think we're guilty.
Yeah.
Like, if that theory is true, I think we're guilty.
I mean, what would make us any more or less guilty than any other like living creature?
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it's humans. I mean, if you take away like jealousy and malice, you know, like and vengeance, all of these other things that we experience that we unfortunately act on. I mean, a lion, a hyena, like any of these carnivores out in the wild, like they kill creatures because they have to for sustenance, right? And like I personally come from the point of view. I mean, I don't know if you have read about animism. All living creatures, and I mean everything from plants to the bugs that are crawling on your skin to the rats outside, are living their own experience, right? I think it's really kind of a fallacy that we think of ourselves as special, when really what we are is unnatural because we produce plastics that allow us to like destroy our, like, you know, what's around us. All living creatures are experiencing an objective reality that is unique to that creature, right? And we are just experiencing a reality that's unique to us. You know, if we were ants in an anthill living in a society of tens of thousands of other ants, we would also have a way of looking at the world that was directly influenced by the society we live in, by the number of appendages we have, by our diet. We would then be creating our own metaphors to then understand our own existence, when really what it is that we are just moving through time and we have this body, which is a technology that allows us to perceive our movements through time.
Yeah. That's a good segue to the next thing I was talking about. Grant Morrison is a comic book creator, and
he's a comic writer. He wrote, and I'm not even a big comic book guy, but he wrote Batman. That's where he got famous. He was like an indie comic guy, but in the late 80s, he got a contract to write Batman that happened to be the Batman that came out when the Michael Keaton movies were out. So there was this huge resurgence of interest in Batman, and he was the person that was writing it when you went to the store and bought a Batman comic. So he was able to make a lot of money and notoriety off of that, which has allowed him to basically be able to do some stuff that maybe he takes some risks that he wouldn't have been able to outside of that. But you're getting at the video, right?
I'm getting at I'm getting to that. Yeah. So that's an introduction of who he is. So he had, and I'll put the link to the video in the show notes for the podcast so everybody can watch it, because it's a really interesting talk. I really like that. And he went on for a little too long for it to be bullshit. Like, you know, he was very detailed. So he went on to say that he was abducted by aliens sometime in the 90s, I think.
In Kathmandu.
In Kathmandu, yeah. So because he was reading about Aleister Crowley. Yeah. And he's like, well, let's see if this is real. Let's try it. And he tried it, and then that's what happened. So he got abducted in Kathmandu, and they were, he said they were fifth dimensional.
Yeah, he claims that they were fifth dimensional creatures. That basically, I mean, we're talking to him through his consciousness, not in like a physical realm.
Right.
But then brought him to different parts of the universe that he wanted to experience, and left him with a lot of information about the way the world works.
Yeah, yeah, and he said that they created this reality or this dimension to build things. It was
To
like
grow themselves.
To grow.
So
themselves.
basically,
Okay.
the way that he explains it is that fifth dimensional creatures do not live in time because they transcend time. They can view time the way that we view, like, moving back and forth through a DVD almost, you know. And so if they want to procreate in some way or grow another one of these creatures, they have to plug into what he refers to as the information world, which is funny because that's also been picked up by like people that are proponents of emergence theory. It's like these group of mathematicians. It's like highly contested, is mostly just bullshit, you know? But like they also use that same terminology. I don't know if they got it from him or if this is just the way that they think about it. But yeah, he basically says that you plug yourself into this information world where they can allow the passage of time and then grow one of these things. And what we are, like our experience, is within the consciousness of this growing being. We are these pieces of itself that are exploring what's going on inside of this consciousness of this creature, so that this creature is having these realizations and coming to maturity, basically. Which, I mean, if you read Crowley, which Crowley was really influenced by like yoga traditions. He talks about this idea of like, he really liked to like denigrate himself as, or like all people as like, we're just tears rolling down the cheek of this celestial being. We're like toenail clippings from this god, you know, and we're just experiencing this because we're being separated from our larger selves, which is really just this deity, you know, and it's, and I mean, it's like an updated way of saying the exact same thing, you know?
Right. Yeah. That's it was kind of like what we were talking about when we got into the discussion of like astral travel, and I was talking about like the different layers of reality that you can travel through while astral traveling, and you mentioned like that's just the Kabbalah.
Yeah.
Right. Or the Tree of Life. I can't remember.
Yeah. So the Kabbalah, though there's Kabbalah, which is with a K. That's like traditional Jewish way of thinking about the world.
Yeah.
And then there's Kabbalah with a C, which is basically just Kabbalah, but like changed so that it makes sense within Christianity, with the New Testament.
Yeah.
And then Kabbalah with a Q was, I mean, I came to it through the Golden Dawn. That's what they use for everything. I was recently reading something that really like changed the way that I think about things, which I think was helpful, which is, so basically the Kabbalah has this glyph that's used called the Tree of Life, which comes from a book called Sefer Yetzirah, which is an old Jewish text, which basically breaks down reality into 10 parts. They're not really distinct parts. They start at what's called Kether, which is like the first emanation of light. So it is like completely uncontrolled energy. It then runs through these 9 more stops, I guess, on this pathway, which are generative and constrictive forces, which are basically like allowing energy to grow and then constricting it into form down the line until you reach what's called Malkuth, which is the world that we exist in, which is like the final form of everything being crystallized into you and I sitting here across this table with 2 microphones and a computer and recording equipment. But I was reading a book recently from somebody that subscribes to more like traditional witchcraft, and they have this it's basically, instead of doing 10, they break it down into 3. And this person explained it as like, if you come from this from Wicca or Golden Dawn or whatever, it might not make sense because you're taught this 10 modes of existence, when really what it is it's more of like a gradient. And then you have to basically put these arbitrary cutoffs on it so that you can then make sense of it. But yeah, I mean, so it's a little bit hard to explain. I just like kind of getting back to what you were saying about like, I don't want to tell anybody that they're wrong, you know, and especially when it comes to stuff like this, like we're limited to what our perceptions are, and other people have what I feel are very valid experiences. And if we talk about it, I find that the experiences are more similar than they are dissimilar, you know? But yeah, as far as getting back to like astral travel and the Kabbalah, so like if you move up from Malkuth 1, it's a sphere that's called Yesod, which a lot of people describe as, I remember when I talked to you, you were talking about like a mirror image of kind of where we are.
Yeah.
So it's more like, if you think about it as like what's happening seconds before it's actually something that we experience, right? And those things can be, there's all of these things that influence like the next moment. You know, you and I right here having a very friendly conversation, but if I was a black man and you were a police officer, it would be a much more volatile conversation. You know what I mean? Because it has all of these other charged factors that can actually trigger that into a very different situation, right? And so like when you're moving backwards up through this tree, what you are doing is you're starting to understand all of these different things that are influencing what happens at Malkuth and where you can sort of change the direction of the tracks to influence how things actually happen when they get down to that bottom sphere. In terms of like astral travel on that, there is a book called The Tree of Life by a guy named Israel Regardi. He was a student of Aleister Crowley. It's a very interesting book. He also wrote one called The Garden of Pomegranates that's specifically gets into scrying and astral travel within the using the Tree of Life as kind of your map. But it's not something that I have a lot of experience in. And that's also something where like I start to get kind of dubious of people that really make like concrete claims that they astral traveled to Milwaukee, Wisconsin to a black metal show. You know what I mean? Because they couldn't make it. But yeah, I mean, that's, do you have any experience with astral travel?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are your experiences like?
So I got really into Robert Bruce. He's a very experienced astral traveler. He's an Australian writer. If anyone's interested, you can check out Astral Dynamics.
Okay.
Which is like I think the first book he wrote, and there was like another like Learn to Astral Travel in 30 Days book that he wrote, which is like he's a great writer because these books are fucking thick, you know, and that's when you know this is going to be a good book because it's a thick motherfucker. You know what? Like
if it takes a long time to get through, I like it.
Yeah, I mean, like the Montauk Project, thin book. That guy's full of shit. Thin book. That's how you can tell.
Because it's like it's not as well researched.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah. So he is Robert Bruce is really good. So I was like trying some techniques. Some of his stuff is a little bit. There's a learning curve to it.
Okay.
But I was kind of like reading about it and I was trying it out a little bit myself. Like, it's really hard to do consciously. I'll say that.
Okay.
Like if I fall asleep, I'm able to do it. But the trick is going into astral travel from a lucid dream. So first you got to become lucid in the dream, and then you can kind of do that. But whenever I've done it, it's always been by accident. It's never been intentional.
Gotcha.
So that's why I say it's hard to do because that's whatever. But I think I'm a little bit more, I guess, tuned in because I'm a Scorpio, you know. So, but when I was a kid, I had these sleep paralysis when I was a kid. So not anymore, thank God, because that's super scary. But there was one instance that was very clear that I still remember when I was astral traveling. I think I was about 20 something. I started reading this book and I fell asleep next to the
while
book.
Reading the book.
While reading the book.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, I'm like having this dream. I'm like looking at the tops of buildings in Chicago. And so I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm floating along. This is all right, you know? And then I float into a bedroom and I'm like looking at somebody sleeping. And I'm like, who's this person? And then I realize, like, that's me.
That's you? Yeah.
That's me. And then
it's like, should I be here or should I leave? Oh, it's just me.
I start freaking out.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I thought I died.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I thought I was dead. And then once I started freaking out, that's when the whole thing ended. You know, I just woke up and
I was going to ask if you woke up or if you went back into like a non-lucid dream state.
Yeah, just woke up because it was so scary. But you have to be... the conditions have to be just right, unless you're like very naturally good at it. But for me, the conditions have to be right where like my body has to be completely relaxed while my mind is still active,
Right.
And that can happen when I'm asleep. It's like sometimes like my body is completely relaxed and then my mind will start racing for some reason while I'm in REM sleep, go into a dream, turns lucid, then it can turn into astral travel. There was one where it's like I went through like a tunnel and then I can't remember offhand, but I went to like this different place where everything was kind of squishy and stuff. But I'd have to go back into my notes. I wrote a lot of these down, of these astral travels.
Oh, so like, do you keep like a regular dream journal?
Only when it's like interesting.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
but so you don't do the thing of just like I'm gonna keep a journal, because I don't keep a dream journal, but I've read so much about people saying like, well, if you start keeping a journal and even write down the boring stuff, whatever you remember, you will start to remember your dreams more.
That's part of the success to astral travel, as Robert Bruce puts it. Like once you start writing all this stuff down, then you start to remember it a lot more, because there's like these shadow memories. So he says that everybody astral travels all the time, but you forget that because as soon as you wake up, it's just poof, it's gone.
Right.
So as soon as you wake up, start writing that stuff down. You'll start retaining a lot more. You can also do things like reality checks during the daytime, like create something like, it's kind of like Inception, you got the totem.
Yeah.
So you look at your watch or something.
That's
like that.
I've always read about like look at your watch, and then like a friend of mine tells me that like he will do stuff like set his alarm every few minutes before he goes to bed, and then when he realizes that his alarm isn't going off, he's like, oh, it's because I'm asleep. Or like looking at his hand, and he's like, if I can look at my hand and do this and like will myself to look at both sides of my hand, right? I'm like doing something into a talking into a microphone, moving my hands around. Sorry. And like be able to like look at both sides of his hand and realize like, okay, I'm here and I'm obviously dreaming, because like there shouldn't be a bird in my living room or whatever.
Right.
I've never had very good luck at it, I also smoke a lot of pot, so I don't dream very much. If I don't smoke weed for like 4 days, I have the most intense dreams.
Oh God. Yeah.
But then I just like wake up and I'm like, whoa, that was sick. And then I just like go about my day,
Yeah. It can, let's say, so another like thing to do if you want to get good at it is like go into the astral realm. If you're successful, don't stay around too long. Like look at something and then come straight back to your body, jump back in your body, and then immediately write down everything that happened. So because if you try, you get excited. You're like, holy shit, I can fly. Holy shit, I'm in a different realm.
Right.
I'm going to look at everything, and then you're out too long, and then you come back and you forget everything.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. So it's almost like you have to train yourself to memorize or like remember what you were doing. Okay. Yeah.
So Robert Bruce suggests like when you're in that astral state and you're ready to go back in your body, just like repeat everything that just happened. Like, oh, I saw a giant dinosaur, and something like that. And then like, repeat it so many times and then go straight back to your body.
Gotcha.
So the success comes from keeping that detailed journal. Like I'm not always that disciplined, so I don't write everything down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's also like Rosicrucians are really big on this idea of like when you go to bed at night, recap your entire day internally. And what that does is allows you to remember the sequence of your day. And then you're supposed to do it backwards, I think. I'm not huge into Rosicrucianism, but the idea is like, then you start to see your life as like a backwards thing, which is just as valid as what's happening forwards, which is your future. And then you can influence both sides of it. And then when you take a concept like that and add it onto dreams, which is something that like boggles my mind because we know literally nothing about it. And it's one of those things that kind of makes me upset when we think about it from like our Western materialist view of like every human dreams essentially. I mean, like obviously some people have mental faculties that don't allow them to do it or remember it or whatever, but most people dream. We do know that other creatures dream. We can see dogs dreaming, we can see cats dreaming, we know that that's happening. And yet we still write it off as this thing of just like, oh, it's just like this weird quirk that living creatures have. It's like, okay, but why? Like, what evolutionary purpose does that serve?
Yeah.
Why would we retain something that really is bad for us? Because then you wake up and you're disoriented, because you're still in the dream state, which is really dangerous if you're out in the wild and being hunted, So why do we have that? Is that something that we developed later on in our evolution when we had shelter that allowed us to feel more safe,
Yeah.
And if you, dude, I don't want to speak too hard on this because I'm just a white dude from the US, but so I don't think that I would ever fully understand this, but if you read about like Aboriginal cultures in Australia and the way that like some of those cultures view dreams as just as valid an experience as your waking life, right? Because you spend a third of your life dreaming, so it should be just 1/3 as valid as the rest of your life anyway. And they look at that as like a very important lived experience.
Yeah.
Which I think is something that maybe like would behoove us to rethink the way that we think about that,
Yeah, speaking of Aboriginals, I was doing the God helmet. We do a little bit of everything here at the Ganzfeld.
What is the God helmet?
So the God helmet is a it has like these little magnets on a helmet that you put on, and it kind of pumps like magnetic fields into your brain.
Oh, okay. I've done that before.
You've done that, okay.
But they were called digital drugs. Is it the same thing?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, because the one I have, they have like a little CD and there's a program.
Oh,
and
okay.
then you can load up different types of trips or whatever they call it, experiences.
Okay.
So and there's different kind. There's like a relaxation one. There's like, go hard.
Yeah, that sounds like a form of what I did.
Kinda,
yeah, mine wasn't like a
drug.
helmet. It was like I put something on right here and then something on my temple. And then some guy had it. It was like a Bluetooth. It was like hooked up to his phone, but he had these programs where it was like, if you want like to focus right now, and it was like send. It didn't do anything for me, but I was also like drinking a beer in a tattoo shop with like 4 other people.
If anybody's interested, you can go check out the God Helmet, godhelmet.com. The guy's name escapes me. Bad host. I'll look it up later. But yeah, check out godhelmet.com if you want one. I mean, they're kind of pricey, but anyway, I was doing a God Helmet session, and then I started to get these visions coming in, which usually happens when I do the God Helmet. And then I saw like a snake floating by, and it was multicolored. I was like, it's a flying kind of multicolored snake. And then when I came out of the session, I was like, rainbow serpent. You've heard of that? Yeah, the Aboriginal culture. I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
Rainbow fucking serpent. I was like, oh shit.
But that was a concept that you were already familiar with, right? Yeah. I mean, I wonder sometimes about like this. Like, I mean, I catch myself doing it too, and I think that it's just like a healthy skepticism of like when you have an experience like that, I always am just like, well, but I had heard of a rainbow serpent. Yeah. So that was like somewhere in my consciousness, Yeah. But that's also, I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
You didn't have an idea of what the rainbow serpent was.
No, I didn't go seeking it. I mean, it's true. Yeah, I might have. It could have drawn it out of my memory bank. It's possible, but it's super weird. Super weird though. Speaking of dream, did I tell you about my demon encounter dream?
I don't believe so.
No. Okay. Well, I did talk about this on the podcast, but I'm gonna reiterate. So, speaking of dreams, I was having this reoccurring dream where this entity, whatever, what have you, would come up behind me and take a finger like this, jam it in my back. And when I say jam it, it feels like someone took their finger and like had a Mack truck behind it and just slammed it into my back and like drained my energy. And this is a reoccurring nightmare that kept happening. This is a while ago. And I didn't think anything of it. I didn't bring it up on the podcast because I was like, it's just a nightmare. It's not really like, this is not.
Yeah, it's like, I don't need to share this.
Yeah, it's just, this is silly. It's dumb.
Yeah.
I thought it was stress.
Yeah.
Really, But I went to the paranormal conference back in October, and a psychic medium comes up to us, and he starts telling us about this stuff, and he's like, oh, you have an attachment and shit. And he's like, there's something that is attached to you, draining your energy and shit. And I was like, oh shit.
And you were able to perceive it in one plane of consciousness, that you aren't right now,
Yeah. So he's like, it's kind of, its entry point is like right here. And like, he touched like the
knew
part
where
of my
it was
back.
on your back. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm going to release this now. And when he did, it was like a huge weight that was lifted off of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, how did this guy know? Because like, I told that to a friend of mine. Like, oh, well, he could have listened to the podcast. He was like, first of all, nobody listened to this. I got like 10 listeners. Yeah.
Right.
But that's not something I ever spoke of
on
the podcast because it was a dream. I didn't,
Right. Yeah, for sure.
The point?
You didn't have any stock in it.
Yeah. So he came up and said, oh, yeah, I'm going to remove this demon for you. I'm like, whoa, shit. It's real.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. So there are some things that are come into your dream life that are actually,
or like what I was trying to get at before is like it might not be finding you in a dream, but when you're in a dream state is when you're able to understand what's happening to you because all of this other stuff isn't right in front of you. You know, I mean our perception of the world is extremely limited, and that's I don't really talk about this stuff ever,
Sure.
So it's not like I get into a lot of debates with people, and I also just don't fucking care what anybody else thinks. And I, as someone that was like a very scientifically minded materialist atheist for almost all of my life, I also completely understand why people feel the way they do because I felt that way for a long time too.
Yeah.
But one thing that really bothers me when people try to discredit whether it's metaphysical experiences people have, magical practice, spiritual practice, like whatever, and they come to it with like, well, if it can't be observed or if I haven't observed it, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, fuck that guy, and the way that he talks about the world, like I get that he's a genius and he understands math that I will never understand, but I also think that he's a fucking arrogant prick that doesn't understand that his eyes don't even see the full color spectrum. So why does he think that he should be able to observe all of this other phenomenon that he knows we can't observe?
It's impossible to observe everything with your eyes and ears and touch.
I mean, these are our ears. The range of hearing that we have is so limited compared to just what other creatures have, not talking about just the actual range of audio that can exist out there. Our eyes are extremely limited. We know that there are living creatures that see colors that we cannot see. Like one thing I love to bring up, like squid. Have you ever heard about how squid communicate with each other?
No.
This is several years ago. Some scientists were filming squid with slow motion cameras, like really, really high tech slow motion cameras. And they found that when they played it back, they could see colors they would flash colors. So it turns out that squid have little pigment, I don't know what, they're like sacks that they can fill with red pigment, and they can do it really, really quickly. And it happens so fast that we're not able to even see it. And when we film them, like it turns out they're doing it, but the cameras can't pick it up. But when they used this slow motion camera and played it back in slow-mo, they could see squid flashing, and then they could see them doing it at each other. And they use it to hunt, they use it to communicate where food is to each other, and we had no idea that existed until like 10 years ago.
Oh, so they're filling their pigment sac, and then they observe the sac.
Well, yeah. So basically, it's like they use it like the way that we would do like hand signals. Essentially, like they're filling, and they do it really, really rapidly. So they fill it up with red ink, and then it goes back, and so it's like this flashing red and white. But they know for a fact that they're doing it to communicate with each other because when they saw it, and you can see them in a group, they coordinate their movements based on these flashings. And so if there's a living creature that we think of as dumb, it's just a stupid squid, but they're able to communicate visually in a way that we were not able to observe without technology, why do we think that there aren't millions upon millions of other phenomenon that we do not have the biological technology to observe?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to get Neil deGrasse Tyson on the show. Just give him like a handful of mushrooms and stick him in the Ganzfeld and see what he thinks then.
I mean,
try it out, buddy.
I really respect his like science education. I will admit that I never fully understood the concept of evolution until I heard Neil deGrasse Tyson describe it. Like he's really good at educating certain things, but I do think that he just has that arrogance of like, I hate to use the term like mainstream science, but like this idea, but I do think that we do have mainstream scientists in the US that are really leading people astray by telling them that we're just like, yeah, man, you're just like some fucking dirt that realized that, oh, I can move stuff, I can move other dirt, and then you fucking die, you know? And like, I don't like that way of viewing the world.
Yeah, that's all material science. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just all like what you can prove with instruments that you built, you know?
Yes, exactly.
So it's like, is that really what's going on?
Right,
you know?
right.
Like, so I don't know. I mean, how does an inch stay an inch if the universe is always expanding? I don't know. That's going to bother me for the next.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, and some scientists, like neuroscientists, are like to argue like, where is consciousness in the brain? We can't find it. It's not in the brain. There's no like magical creator of consciousness, and there's no gland.
Right. Exactly.
You know, because I personally believe that the brain is a receiver
100%
of consciousness.
Yes.
You know, its consciousness is out there. We receive it. And that is kind of it's being reinforced by me doing the Ganzfeld on this podcast. Every time I do it, I feel like a receiver of consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like I'm picking up on like energies in the universe and conversations people are having with each other, and you know, just weird stuff that goes on. You know, I'm sure like probably like 3 realities up, there's like some weird monster guy with horns, and he's just kind of chilling in his living room, and I pop up and he just looks over like, what the hell are you doing here?
Yeah. But it's like when we see a fly on the wall, and it's just like, hey, you don't really think about it that hard, you know?
Why is he looking at me?
Yeah. My apartment's not that clean.
So segueing into your first time doing the Ganzfeld, what was that? What was that like?
With you guys at the apartment.
Yeah.
That was a very interesting experience.
Yeah.
We met through a mutual friend, I guess.
Yeah.
It was somebody that I work with that is a friend.
He's been on the show.
Yeah.
John. It's John. Yeah.
Okay, everybody, it's John.
Yeah.
And we got drunk that time, and then we went to this apartment complex that had a weird box in it, and did the Ganzfeld experiment inside of the box.
Yep.
Was I the second one that went? I think
so. Yeah.
I think John went before me.
Yeah, I think he might have went before you, and then I think you went last. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I did it inside the box that we were kind of trying to figure out it was an odd situation with this box being in this basement of an old apartment complex in Chicago.
Yeah.
We didn't know if it was like it had some sort of nefarious purpose in the past. I personally, having been there, I don't really think that's true. I think that the evidence made sense, you know. But yeah, I went in and I put on the headphones, and I did my best to just like get into a meditative state, you know. Sure. So I was mostly just focusing on my breath. I had never done meditation with headphones on like that before, because usually when I do meditation, I'm like, turn my phone off, put it in the next room. Like I want to get as far away from any sort of technology or outside influence as possible. Yeah. But I also, like, I was in hardcore bands for 20 something years. So I have terrible tinnitus. Okay. And so I actually found having the headphones on with the white noise really helped me get into a meditative state.
Oh, cool.
Because it covered up that tinnitus. You know what I mean? I wasn't paying attention to the ringing in my ears. It was just, it like was putting a blanket, like it felt like a weighted blanket on my consciousness. Like in a good way, you know.
That's nice.
I remember the first thing that happened was I started to see different colors, which was very interesting because, well, my eyes were closed, but also because it was like pitch black in there. I mean, I was like inside of a room that was a basement that was already pretty dimly lit. So like if you like just for anybody listening, like if you went in this little box, you close the door and you could see like a thin layer of the outline of the door, and that was all the light that was in there.
Yeah.
But after a few minutes, I was seeing like bright pink light, and it was like all around me, and everything was kind of like soft. In terms of like, I literally felt like I could like reach out and feel like I was inside of like a marshmallow. I felt like I was inside of a pink iridescent marshmallow.
Were you floating, or were you just kind of?
No, I mean, towards the beginning, I was aware of the fact that I was sitting in a room.
Yeah.
By the end of it, like when you guys opened up the door, I was gone. I was like somewhere else completely. He's laughing because he remembers me like almost punching John. Like, don't fucking touch me.
It can be jarring. Yeah.
But it was also after. I mean, I was only in there for 15 minutes, maybe. Yeah. I don't remember. But after a couple minutes, the first thing that I became aware of was there was a dog in the room. And I mean, I smelled the dog. I felt the dog on my leg. Yeah. I could smell the dog. I became aware of like a presence of something. And again, this was just at first might be just being like, yeah, my brain's just playing tricks on me, whatever. I'm like, like sensory deprivation. What do I want? And if I was a dog person, I would probably think about it as like, oh, well, dogs make me feel comfortable, but like dogs don't make me feel comfortable. I don't dislike dogs, but I've never owned one. I have no opinion. You know what I mean? Okay. If I was going to reach for something comfortable, it would probably be a cat, before a dog. But I could smell it, and then I felt it on my leg, and like put its head on my leg in like a very familiar, like the dog felt safe sort of way. Yeah. It was a black dog, and I could feel its fur. I mean, like literally like a tactile, I could feel its fur on my hand, like if I was like petting it.
Right. Was it short hair or long hair?
It was like, I would say like, I don't know what you consider like a short hair dog, like about an inch long.
Because like a Labrador has the short hairs. So if it was a black dog, I'm assuming it was a Labrador, but I mean, you couldn't tell the breed.
So how big? I don't know enough about dogs to know what a Labrador.
It's about
that would be about that size.
Yeah.
I mean, and then like the other thing to think about is like I was doing a lot of work with like Hecate at the time, and which didn't even really add up to me until later, which is like it's always talked about that Hecate will bring black dogs as like her protection, right? And so I mean, like I like days later had this thought about like, oh, that might have just been like this work that I was doing, bringing this energy into my life. And then like, that is the metaphor. Like I said before, like we're always creating metaphors. And so these things occur to us in metaphors, which is really important for anyone listening that wants to get into this stuff. Like there is not a physical dog walking into your room. You know what I mean? Like, but it is something that's above you, communicating with you, and the dog is the metaphor that they know that they can communicate this information with, and so it was either that or there was just a dog had died in there. I mean, I don't know.
It's possible. I mean, it is an apartment building, so I mean, at some point there was a dog.
Well, and then we had also found that the furnace that had bones in it. That I'm fully convinced were dog bones after that experience.
Could have been. Yeah. Could have been a dog. Yeah. Could have been possible. Well, we don't really know. But, I mean, the bones are decent size. I mean, we found
Right, exactly. It wasn't like a small dog, if it was a dog. It wasn't a raccoon,
It could have been a dog. I had, if you listen to all the episodes on this podcast, you know that back in episode 3, I had an experience with a dog while in Ganzfeld.
Oh, okay.
So, my friend... Erin, she was a guest on the show, and she before I went in, I prompted her. I said, "Put something in your mind, think about something, and then I'll do the Ganzfeld, and I'll try to like pick up on what it was, So I'm in, let's see, about 2 or 3 minutes, and then I start to feel like this depression in the bed to my left side near my knee area. So, and of course, when something like pushes on the bed, you kind of lean a little bit.
Right.
I felt that sensation, although, I'm not actually leaning, but I felt the sensation of leaning and a depression in the bed.
Yeah.
And then something like climbing onto the bed and something. I was like, whoa, yeah, freaked me out. Spooky, And then later on when it came out of it, I was like, this is what, and I could have sworn that Aaron was doing that and just like fucking with me.
Yeah.
Are you fucking with the bed? What the fuck? So, and I asked her, she's like, no, I was thinking about Lucky, which is her dog that had died.
Oh.
And he had been gone a couple of months at this point.
Oh, so it's like still pretty fresh.
Yeah. And I was like, I was a good friend with Lucky, like I would come over and play with him a lot. But she said he used to do that. He used to come up to that side where I felt it, put his paws on the bed. And he was a big dog too. Mm-hmm. So he could make some depressions in the bed with his weight, and then that's how he'd like hoist himself up. First he put his paws up and then kind of push down and then hoist himself up onto the bed. So that makes sense that you saw a dog. It's totally possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. You heard it first, folks. Ghost dogs. That's what we're doing. Okay, so here's a good time to take a break. And when we come back, we will be doing the Ganzfeld experiment, Ian and I, and then we will report what we saw.
Okay, cool.
All right, we're back from our break, and Ian just came out of doing a Ganzfeld session.
I wanted to jump back into this immediately afterwards.
Really?
Yeah, well, I mean, like the colors in this room are still very much influenced by the goggles that I was wearing. You know what I mean? Right. So like, I feel like I'm still kind of there. Yeah. I felt like it was best to maybe talk about it immediately.
Okay.
Yeah. I do want to say that I completely forgot that you are wearing goggles with a red light inside. And earlier when I was like, oh yeah, it's like pink light. And I was like, oh yeah, it's because I was wearing fucking goggles. I totally forgot about that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like I put the eye shields on and I put the goggles on and then sat down. Man, most of it was just the red light.
Okay.
We were talking before we came back on about how like I did 15 minutes and I think I need like at least solid 45 minutes or so. Cause it's like I was like just starting to get into it,
Yeah.
The most interesting thing that happened was, I had one moment where I was, you're getting a lot of just like visions, but like once you start to not engage with your thoughts in the way that you normally do, like for anybody that's listening to this that has never meditated before, you will just have visions, like just because your brain is constantly coming up with content to entertain you, So there were a lot of things that I was seeing that I was able to just kind of write off as like, oh, that's just my brain saying like, fucking pay attention to me,
Yeah.
Just playing like the TV show it wants to watch. But I did start to see this, like, did you ever, like the posters of like a drawing of the Earth where they have like a quarter of it cut out and you can see the core and you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I was getting this just like very persistent image of that, of like being able to see like the Earth and the core, and it wasn't like a beautiful image. I mean, it really did just look like a drawing from like an 8th grade textbook on like, but then when I started to engage with it, it turned into an eye. Like, and not like like an eyeball, but like with like an eyelid. It was like a human eye, where like the core kind of morphed into the pupil and then the rest of it turned into the iris, and then I started to see this eye and then I saw an eye looking at me and then became aware that was my eye, which was a very strange experience.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that happened that I need to think about this. Like I have this idea with stuff like this, like, it's not my idea. It comes from other people. I just can't remember who I read it first. Was like, when you're in the moment of meditating and having these things, you have to just kind of recognize everything as kind of being on the same. And then later you analyze it because you can hiccup, there were 3 distinct parts where it felt like I was tripping on mushrooms, where I had visuals,
Okay.
Like, I don't know what your experiences are like on mushrooms, but my visuals tend to be like colored purple. Does that happen with you?
No, my vision doesn't usually skew unless I have like a higher dosage.
Okay.
Then it does. Then colors in the room will kind of skew into different.
Yeah, and you get like fractals and stuff. And so like when I'm on mushrooms, and it's not like this when I'm on acid or DMT or anything like that. It's just specific to mushrooms. When I get the fractals, they're always purple. Okay. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just because of the feelings I get from mushrooms, whatever. Yeah. And so when I was getting these visions in there, it was like a black background, and then the actual like fractal patterns were like a lighter purple on top of it. And there were 3 like very distinct things that happened. They were 2 of them were repeated images, like a hologram, just like repeated over and over, but they were moving. And they were just like geometric shapes. I couldn't make sense of them, but they were like all very ordered, and they were also like, it was like they had been put in my vision in like a perfect, perpendicular angle to the way that I see, and then skewed about 45 degrees, which I thought was also like an odd.
That's very specific.
Odd aesthetic choice that my brain made there. But then at one part when I really started to engage with them, because it happened 3 different times, and it was like, I know that part of it was just the light in my eyes, because like I would open my eyes and I would see this, the pinkish kind of orangish, and there were like a few blobs. That's where I had the vision with the eye, was when I was like, my eyes were open and seeing things in orange. But then I would close my eyes, and after I was in there for, I don't know, I would guess about 5 minutes, as soon as I closed my eyes, those fractals came on like super, super hard.
Really?
So I wonder if it's just like my eyes like adjusting to being dark, and like that's how it was figuring out what to do. But have you ever had the vision on mushrooms where I've read that people describe it as the formation of the universe, where you start to see this like kind of, it's like a dust that starts to whip up, and then it starts to take shape, and it's, I've had the exact vision, and I've read other people describe the exact same thing. And it is, for me, the one time that I saw it was like the most profound experience it led to the most profound experience of my life.
Really?
While I was on mushrooms. And while I was in there, when I started to engage with the fractals, I started to get that. But I couldn't get like deep enough in there to see where it was going to take me, Yeah. As I mean, basically, like when that happened to me on mushrooms, I started to have this vision, and then I started to like dissolve my ego completely, which was something that at the time I didn't even know you could do, So it was like, for me, I legitimately thought that I was dying. I legitimately was just like, oh, I am dying on my girlfriend's couch and she's going to have to deal with that. Yeah. I was just like, okay, I guess I don't know I'm having a heart attack on my girlfriend's couch while I'm on mushrooms. You know what I mean? And like, I just had to resign myself to like, fuck.
Yeah.
And then, about 2 hours later, I woke up and she was on her 2nd episode of the X-Files while just being like, yeah, you were just out for a while, man.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what happened, but it was the most amazing. When I came to, it was the most amazing feeling that I have ever had. Wow. I do remember some things that happened while I was in that state, but it got to the point where I was just completely gone.
Yeah.
So I wonder if I can do that here. Like with this, like if I really got myself deep enough into it.
Yeah, it's totally possible. Yeah. At some point I'd like to have you back on, and I want to bring in like Samu and Kevin and probably do some longer sessions.
For sure.
Yeah. When everybody's got, some time. But
on like a Saturday where we can like make a whole day of it.
Yeah. Get really deep into it. Yeah. Samu was talking, he describes the 1 hour session as a cookie, like sometimes food, like.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Because his stuff was like, he's seeing like these pillars, and he sees like this like lion's face and stuff, all this strange imagery that doesn't make any sense, and like a black pyramid, and like all this really weird abstract like stuff, imagery that comes into him. But we could do it in a longer session, and I want to do an hour. I've never done an hour.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be really interested to see what happens in an hour. And I mean, the thing with meditation, which is, I mean, this is essentially you're meditating. You're putting yourself in a situation where, like, you can't hear what's going on around you, so you can't focus on that. And then your vision is obscured, but it's almost stimulated, but it's static, and so basically you're getting bored, which people are supposed to be bored.
You're supposed to, it's supposed to be boring.
We don't live in lives that allow us the freedom to be bored.
Yeah.
And when you start meditating, one of the things that, like, you sit there and you try to.
Okay, now we're back on mic. We had a little.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So tell us more about your trip, your Ganzfeld situation.
Yeah, well, I mean, what I was saying before we had to swap over the cards was, I think that I was having like other thoughts and visions and everything, but I think that was mostly just the stuff that your brain does while you're trying to get into a place where you can actually like talk to yourself.
Yeah.
Like, as someone that meditates, I find that when I am meditating for an extended period of time, it actually makes a difference, whereas everything else, it's just kind of a way to calm yourself down for 5 minutes, So, I mean, I would love to do one of those hour-long sessions, I mean, that's like, I get the cookie metaphor, but that's also kind of like, maybe that's just like how deep you got to go.
It might be, yeah. I mean, until you get to the really good shit, like the good, the really cool stuff. I like to go deep. I mean, that's just me. I like to go hard, and that's why I've mixed the Ganzfeld with LSD. I've mixed it with mushrooms. I haven't tried it with DMT, but I would love to try it. But that's something you can do as well if you want. If you want to be on the show, if you want to do that. But I have seen like really deep, intricate shit when I'm high on mushrooms, or else when I'm doing the Ganzfeld. And some people say, well, that's like DMT imagery that you're seeing. And then, like, John said the same thing. He was on LSD, did the Ganzfeld, and saw some DMT like imagery. Well, how, and I'm thinking like, well, how do you see that?
Right.
If you're not on DMT.
Right, exactly. And I mean, as someone that I'm a proponent of psychedelic drugs, I know that you're not supposed to say that when you're talking about stuff like this, because it makes it super easy for people to just dismiss any experience you have. It's just like, well, yeah, you were on drugs. Of course you saw this, whatever. But when you're doing it and you're sober and you're able to trigger those reactions, which is really like, that's what led me to Ceremonial Magick. I was using psychedelics and I realized that I couldn't just be on drugs all the time. And I had to find another way to do it. And, I was able to do something that triggered those experiences while I was completely sober. And I think that what you're doing is another way to do that. It's just another access point, I mean, I would love to try that on a day where I do it before I do acid and then do acid and do it 2 hours later.
Oh yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, definitely try it. I mean, that's your level of comfortability. Just try it like for an hour, just sober, and then try it with some enhancers,
Yeah. And then there's another, like, there's a meditative technique of which might be helpful for you. Like, if you sit down and you do that for a half an hour and you really get to like a deep point, you can, like, it's easiest if you choose like a spot on your body. So like if you do like cross your right hand across your body and touch your left shoulder, and use that and like pay attention to that sensation and connect it to where you are in terms of your psyche, as far as you are down in there. And then the next time you do it, if you want to get to that deep place, what you can do is get yourself set, start to meditate, chill out, and then touch this spot and allow that to let you find your way back to where you were. And it's almost like this jumping off point. It's like a autosave in a video game. You got yourself to that point. Your body knows that it can get there. And if you relax yourself, and you have to practice at this, it's not something that, like, a lot of times when you tell people about like any sort of meditation or spiritual practice, they just think it's like a typing something on a search bar and you follow the recipe and that's it. But I mean, you have to practice it and you have to get yourself to that point. But that might save you the trouble of having to do it an hour every time,
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. I like also using mugwort. And you mentioned
Dittany of Crete.
Yeah,
is what I had mentioned.
Yeah, and that's kind of like similar to mugwort, where it's like it can help you receive visions or.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you read like old witchcraft manuals, they talk about Dittany of Crete as what's helpful to make spirits manifest, like in a material world. But I mean, all that stuff is like, I mean, have you ever used like flying ointments? I can get you some of that if you want. It's basically like you can buy it at like witchcraft shops, you know, and there's some people do them. It's like bullshit, but sometimes it's basically like a balm that these people that know what they're doing will like bake these herbs into that are these things we're talking about, and you like mugwort, whatever, you rub it on a part of your body where basically like the skin is thinner, or like there's like a word for it, but like I put it on my wrists. I've heard people say that they put it in their armpits, but it is literally a drug that you're doing, you know, essentially, but you're doing it topically, and it doesn't get you high. It just sort of puts you in a state of being where you're more open to things, I guess, you know.
I think that would help. Yeah, that would definitely help out on the show. Like I've done, I haven't done the ointment, but I'm definitely willing to try. Like I want to try mugwort tea also, like mix that with mushrooms and just go fucking crazy. You know?
Yeah.
Just really go out there, you know, because I've done totally sober, and I just inhaled like the smoke of mugwort. I burned mugwort, and that took me to a very different place. It's more of a hippie, earthy kind of trip, you know?
For sure. Yeah.
Well, when I tried it, I was by myself, and I did the Ganzfeld experiment, which I don't recommend. Don't do that. That's not responsible. But you float away, you know. You might not come back. But I did that, and I burned some mugwort, and I started getting these visions of like cavemen, and like there was a caveman was drawing something on a wall inside a cave, and he's getting real into it, and he's like, yeah, you know, and there's like the light is flickering, and like all the cave people and the cave children are like watching him do this. So he's like telling the story. He's like, oh, and this gazelle did this, and like we had our spears, and we went like that, you know. He was like really into it, and everybody was like just glued to it, you know. So and that's what mugwort did to me, and that's when I realized in the trip I realized that he was using like 3 different colors of clay to show shape.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
On the wall, so it's like, so you could see like, and with the flickering,
so like using light, like different colors to create depth in the
and
picture. Okay, gotcha.
And things like that, you know, which is like I don't remember if I knew that beforehand. I could have saw that on a documentary, but it's definitely what they did. You know, they used different colors to depict a dimension and sometimes movement too. I
had no idea. That's cool.
Yeah. So mugwort is cool. It's the shit. I like it, you know. But yeah, disclaimer for everybody, like in some parts of the United States, mushrooms are now legal, but not everywhere. So just be careful if you're going to do it. I wouldn't say use the Ganzfeld and do mushrooms for the first time ever. You know.
100% not. Yeah. And I mean, if you've never done mushrooms before, I'm a big proponent of like, you should eat vegan for a while. You should like clean up your diet. You should get into better shape. Like I'm not saying take 6 months to do mushrooms, but if you were like sincerely want to take mushrooms to like experience something or have a life revelation, you've got to make a bargain with the universe first. And a lot of that is like, well, okay, I'm just going to like take better care of myself for a couple weeks leading up to this so that I'm in the best shape to receive whatever information or experience I'm going to have.
Yeah. And definitely go into a mushroom trip with respect.
Yes.
I think that's a really good way to do it. And maybe that's hard to understand, or I don't know if I'm saying it in a way that people will get it, but come into it with a respectful attitude and you'll be fine. You come in with the attitude like, well, it's not going to really affect me, you know, things like that. I've had some like really rough trips where I'm I'm like, oh, this shouldn't affect me that much. And then all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, you know?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also, I mean, when you have used mushrooms and had the experiences that you're supposed to have on mushrooms, you really start to lose respect for the people that just use it as a party drug.
Yeah.
It's always really disappointing to me. Like, as someone that was a really big proponent of psychedelics for a couple of years, you know, I had some friends that just were like, oh man, you're like into mushrooms. Like, let's just fucking do mushrooms and then get drunk. And it's like, no, man, that's not, that's not what I'm talking about. You know?
The more I do psychedelics, the more I want to use it for like meditation and getting to higher realms and not so much do it as a party drug.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? Also, we don't mix psychedelics with the paranormal and do it at a party where no one's paying attention to what's going on.
Do you have experience with that?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
It was
What happened?
My birthday party. And my birthday is October 29th, so it's very close to Halloween. So we did that. We were passing around the Ganzfeld, and we're all on LSD, and like, you know, weird stuff starts happening. Like my friend Kato, like, heard a conversation. She was having a conversation with some kind of spirit or entity or some shit. You know, I had the weirdest goddamn experience in my fucking entire life where I traveled to a, you know, quote, heaven realm, you know, and it was very warm and inviting, and, you know, I just didn't want to leave there, you know, and I was like, this place is great, you know, and there's millions of people around me. I can't tell who they are, but they're all excited that I'm there, and they're all like happy, and I was like, oh, I gotta go, because this is like being dead, and like if I stay here too long, I'm not gonna want to leave. And it's like, fuck that body behind, you know, like, leave that shit behind, like leave Earth, that shit sucks, you know?
Right.
Going to work every day, paying bills, like I want to be here. And it was like a warmth, but not temperature warmth, but emotional warmth.
Yeah.
You know, like all these people are like, oh, we're so glad you're here, and it's great to have you. I couldn't see faces. I couldn't depict, you know, there's different personalities, but they weren't like corporeal, you know.
Okay, gotcha.
So they're just kind of hanging out, but there was a lot of them, so many of them, and they were all very inviting. But I had to step away from that.
I mean, maybe it's just all the cells in your body just saying,
Could be, yeah.
hey, man, thanks for giving us a good time.
You're cool. Yeah. But yeah, I came back from that. And like we passed around the Ganzfeld. We were doing this. And it's like, I told John this before. Like, whenever we're doing the Ganzfeld experiment, and even if we're on drugs, one of us is watching the other. So that anything happens, we'll spark up the sage, we'll do some kind of ritual, and we'll, you know, push out any kind of negative entity. If you're at a party, you're not paying attention. So
you're talking to the person next to you.
Yeah. So I believe something nasty stepped in, and that's probably when I got my attachment from the demon, and then it was released by the psychic medium at the paranormal conference, which is like, good on him. Thanks, man.
If you're listening.
If you're listening. Yeah. Kenneth, yeah, I think that's his name. But don't do it at a party. Yeah.
The first time I ever smoked DMT was at a party, and it was a really great experience.
I've heard DMT is great.
Yeah, well, you know, it's funny. I don't smoke DMT anymore because I have had nothing but bad experiences with it the last 2 years or so.
Oh, that sucks.
I smoked DMT one time when I just was like, I should not have been smoking DMT.
Okay.
You know, and my body did not react well. And ever since then, if I smoke it, I get like super anxious and I don't feel in control, and like my like vision will get like doubled, and I mean it's like a really, really unpleasant experience, and none of the stuff that you want to happen to you while you're on DMT, you know.
Right.
But the very first time I did it, I was at a party with about 12 other people. They were coworkers. I had a job at the time that I really loved, and I got along with all my coworkers. It was like, I don't know if anybody's ever had that, but when you find it, it's great. when you have coworkers that you actually enjoy being around.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was hanging out with them. We had like rented a house. And so everybody was just kind of going nuts, and somebody handed me a pen and was like, this is DMT. I don't know if you've ever done DMT. And I was like, nope. And just took a huge hit, and then took a second huge hit. And I was very well aware of where I was. I had no dissolution of ego. You know what I mean? It wasn't any of that stuff that people talk about.
Sure.
I was very aware that I was sitting on a couch in Northern Illinois in the woods, and I was with, you know, Lauren and John and these people that I like. But I just felt, first off, I felt like I was in a Tim Burton movie. like Big Fish Tim Burton.
Yeah.
You know, like romantic Tim Burton, not Nightmare on or whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
what did he? Nightmare Before Christmas. But so I mean, everything had this like beautiful little glimmer to it, but I just remember feeling so connected to every single person there, and like I felt. This is going to sound really narcissistic, but like I felt empathy in a way that I had never felt empathy for another living creature before.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it legitimately like changed some sort of chemical response to the way that I have when I deal with people. I'm like a very different person from that experience, and it was 8 minutes long. You know, and like no visuals, no fractals, no like dissolution of ego. It was just a drug saying like you're stressed out all the time, but like. Just take the next fucking 8 minutes to appreciate where you are and who you're with. And that's something I had never done before.
That's a good message.
Yeah. So, I mean, I even though I cannot do DMT anymore, I definitely still suggest it to people that like want to have experiences like that.
Yeah, I definitely want to do. I want to do DMT like for reals, and then once I've done it once, I'm gonna do it in the Ganzfeld, because we like to go hard, especially me and John. We like to go.
Yeah.
We like to go hard. The first time I ever did DMT, it was like a little bit like sprinkled on to some weed. So I don't feel like I got the full like complete ego death experience.
You have to smoke a lot of it to get there.
Yeah, because it wasn't a lot. It was just a tiny bit just sprinkled on.
Yeah, and especially if you're like sprinkled on weed. Sorry to cut you off, but like. The way that I have it is it's in a cartridge. It's distilled in gasoline or butane.
Yeah.
So you can smoke a lot of it really quickly. But I've had it in like crystal form. You smoke it out of a crack pipe and you have to get it super, super hot. And then you have to empty the bulb in there. You've got to empty it like 3 times in the span of like less than a minute.
Yeah.
So you do have to do like 3 big pulls or it's just nothing. I sold some DMT to a guy a couple years ago that told me that he was like, I took a 30-second pull off of it and it didn't do anything. And I was like, yeah, because it's a 30-second pull. You should be filling up your entire lungs in like 4 seconds and then holding it and then expelling it. And you do that 3 times and then you're in a different plane of existence,
Yeah, the 3 times you had to do it. Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah, the first time I ever did it was, like I said, it was a little bit of sprinkled on there, and it wasn't like that. It wasn't like a dissolving of my reality and shit. But instead, what I got was a pre-recorded message of a dying alien race, which was fun. So there was these like light beings that their planet was dying. Basically, the planet was killing them, and they had like they were light being people, so they're not corporeal, they're not solid, and they had mastodons with really long legs, very tall, and the entire planet was dying, and this was like a message that was being sent out across the universe, and like they needed help. I picked up on that, and like when I came out of it, I was like really sad, depressed. These people are dying. There's nothing I can do about it, because it's like let's say it is real for a second here. Could be billions of years old. Could have took that long to travel over here, like I don't know how long these people have been dead,
right? Well, and it's also just like, dude, you're some fucking advanced race. You know that I'm a human and I can't do anything about this.
Yeah. The point of the message was, it was like they were just sending out to everybody. So it wasn't directed towards me. I think I just picked up on it.
Gotcha. It was like some radio signal that had gone out. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like an emergency like message being sent out psychically across the universe. Either that or I was just high on DMT. I don't know.
both are very possible. Yeah.
But it was, to me, a little bit too specific. Like, I don't think I can imagine things like that. But before we wrap it up here, we'll get you out of here in a second. I want to talk about Harold.
Okay.
Remember Harold?
I do remember Harold.
Okay, yeah. So you'd come out of your Ganzfeld session and you were telling us about it. And then what gave you the sense that there was something else there, that you got the idea to come up with a makeshift pendulum, and you.
I don't remember how we got started on that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was something. I feel like it was at a suggestion of John that there was something there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember, but I do remember just being like, well, we can just like try this thing, because I mean, I was kind of just like, I mean, fuck it, let's just see what happens.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because I think John was very insistent that there is some kind of force or energy in there.
Well, he had said that both of you guys had said you had like really negative experiences there before.
Yeah, before. But the time that you and I and him went, there was nothing.
Right. And I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel spooked at all. I didn't feel any like negative energy.
The last time we were there, the last couple times I was there before that, the energy was very thick.
Okay.
And you can feel it as soon as you walk in the room, and it is palatable, and it just doesn't feel right. It's that kind of sensation where it's like you're in the woods and you feel like something is there and you just need to get the hell out.
Sure.
That's what we felt. But the last time we were there, it felt very empty, and it felt the air felt thin, and it didn't feel like there was like this negative thing in there anymore. So I don't know what happened. Maybe it took off. Maybe it got bored.
Who knows? But getting back to Harold, I mean, you guys had talked about this, and so there was some it was like trim, like for the like bottom of your wall up against your carpet. There was like some old trim sitting there, and so I like broke it down and made a cross, and then took a key off my key ring, and I think I used your like medical tape to make a little pendulum, and then it got to be pretty bizarre.
It was strange, because you had created like an alphabet spread into 4 different parts, and then I think we started asking questions. We tried to get a name.
Well, I started asking it yes or no questions.
Yeah.
So I started asking it like, "Were you a person?" I started asking, "Were you?" I think we got to like, did you die before in 2022? And it said no. So we had this cross, and we had it set up, and then we made a pendulum, which is basically just a key on a string. And I was holding it over this cross, and I was saying, okay, we can go left to right, and you can say that's no, or you can go up and down, and that's yes. And what we found was, and I mean, I wasn't doing this. I wouldn't know how to do this anyway. I was asking questions, and the pendulum would swing pretty distinctly yes or no. Yep. And there was not a lot of ambiguity, and it would change at the end of the question being asked.
Right. And I noticed too that if Harold is his name, we figured that out, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But when it would swing left to right, it was pretty apparent, and up and down it was pretty apparent. And when it had nothing to stay, the movement completely stopped.
Yeah. I remember when we asked about, is your wife alive? And it was, I mean, we were getting like very well-defined answers. It was swinging pretty hard. Yeah. And then I said, is your wife alive? Or something like that. Yeah. Is your wife here? I asked a question about a wife, and it stopped dead fucking center. Yeah. I mean, like, that was the moment where I started to feel a little bit weird, because the rest of it is just like, I mean, who the fuck knows? You know what I mean? Like the wind coming, like it's just momentum on the string, but there's nothing that could stop a key. Just, I want to stop talking now, you know? So,
and to put it into perspective, like you're holding it with one hand. I think your elbow was on your knee. You got one knee on the ground, and it's like when you're in that position, like your body is going to shake, and it's going to tremble. Your muscles just can't hold fucking still like that, because and those movements are kind of they go down the string, and you can actually see it happening. But for the key to stop completely, to stop dead like that, it was very spooky to me. Yeah, to see that, like I was like, there's no fucking way that you can hold it that still, because it's a good foot. The key is away from your fingers, right? On the string, so it's like you cannot force that thing to stop. Right. Yeah. I mean, there's no way that I was holding it literally just between my thumb and my forefinger. Yeah. And what's funny is, like, if I was to try to describe like a rational
explanation for that while still incorporating like my spiritual beliefs. You know, I mean, I would say like getting back to this like concept that you brought up before about like your brain is like a radio, you know, your whole body is, right?
Yeah.
And like our personalities are inherent to this body, but like everything else is just I mean, we don't know what's making us make these decisions. We have more bacteria in our body than brain cells. You know what I mean? So it's like, who's actually making the decisions? These like all of these little bugs that are in us that are telling us what to think, or are we actually making overt decisions, right? And if you think about it that way, and then you start to think about like dragged out into like, well, there's these God forms or whatever, that's beings that are able to communicate directly through our body, right?
Yeah.
And so I would look at it as like, oh, well, I mean, if there is objectively a ghost there, then this is a ghost that understands, at least in some way, I can affect the material world through the nervous system of this living creature that's trying to interact with me. But even then, I still don't understand how a key stopped dead center in the middle of his cross because it got upset that I asked about his wife, you know?
Yeah. You think that's what it was? He got upset?
I think he got bummed out, man.
Oh,
you know?
they're like kind of upset.
Yeah,
like
not like
sad.
mad at me for asking, you know, but
Yeah.
like I don't think he wanted to talk about his wife, you know?
Okay, well that's fine. Yeah, that's understandable. So, we got the H letter, and then it was like HA, and then we just kind of started saying things out loud. Is it this? Is it that? And so I think John or me said Harold. I think John said Harold, and then it was like, "Is your name Harold?" And it went yes.
Yes. Yep.
Like, oh, okay. So we figured that out. We didn't want to go through the whole alphabet again to try to get the last name.
Yeah, but I think we got
You know.
B was the initial. Yeah.
B something. Yeah. We figured out he was like in his 70s, I think it was.
He said he was born before 1950. Or
Okay.
no, before 1960. We should have written this down.
Yeah.
But I mean, there were like a whole series of questions of like, okay, well, were you born before 1970? Yes. Were you born before 1960? Yes. Were you born before 1950? No. And so then we were able to go backwards of like, were you born this year? No. Were you born this year? No. And then, yeah, the name we got out of, I like you described before, I cut the alphabet up into 4 different sections and I put them in 4 different quadrants and went, okay, is the first letter of your name in, like, put the pendulum in where the first letter of your name is. And that's when things got really fucking weird to me. Like, really weird after the dead stop is because instead of just going yes or no, the pendulum was actually swinging towards a quadrant and not going into the opposite quadrant. So we weren't confusing upper left and lower right.
Yeah.
We could tell that it was upper left, right?
Yeah.
Which is, again, I mean, that's like physics that doesn't even make sense.
Yes,
you know?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, swinging left to right and up and down. It's like you can't really fake that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we figured out that Harold was stuck between this world and the next. And I think that we have to go back there at some point, and we have to like help him move to the next one, you know, if he's willing and he's ready and he wants to, you know. But yeah, at some point, Harold, we'll come back for you. Yeah, we're busy, Harold. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, you just have to stay stuck there in between worlds.
Hold tight. We got podcasts to record.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
We got stuff to do. But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up. Cool. Unless there's anything you want to add.
No, man. We should just do this again sometime.
Hell yeah. We'll get Ian back on the show at some point. Thank you very much, Ian, for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
We'll do longer sessions in the future. We'll have you back on. We'll do like a group thing. Yeah. It's going to be a good time. All right. That's it, everybody. If you want to donate to the show, hit the buy me a coffee link that's on my Instagram. Go there, check me out, the Ganzfeld Files podcast on Instagram. Thank you very much, Ian, for being on the show, and that is it for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.